Well, in continuation with the previous discussion we had regarding the defects in the crystals, I think I told you about the Schottky and Frenkel defects. These two defects, in fact, help in giving electrical and optical and even magnetic properties to the crystals. So we saw that Schottky defect and Frenkel defect can be differentiated by means of the charge balancing and putting a missing atom there. And here you shall see that the occurrence of defect is not always bad. That means that effect makes it possible for the diffusion of ions through the crystals. This diffusion is what makes it a conducting property. When gold crystals and silver crystals are pressed firmly against one another as the temperature is raised, that is, when gold crystal and silver crystals are pressed firmly against one another as the temperature is raised, silver atoms diffuse into the gold atoms. So this diffusion of silver into the gold and Au atoms into silver results in the formation of solid solutions. We have a separate subject dedicated to the solid solutions. Sometimes we call them as alloys, but only when you can predict the metallic properties of those alloys, then you call it as alloys. But if you have properties of the solution that you can account for, you will call it as the solid solution. And the defects in ionic crystals also makes electronic conduction possible in crystalline material such as sodium chloride. We have already seen this. Now look at the graphic presentation of what happens there. This is a separate crystal and this is a separate metal. This crystal already has a arrangement of some both cations and anions. Okay. Now when you diffuse it here, it sits on there. When you put some pressure to this, some of these ions diffuse into the vacant positions there. Okay. And they can rearrange themselves within the space, and this space will be calling as the solid solutions. That is the graphical representation of that particular graphics for a particular crystal. So here is the silver chloride crystal that we have seen in the previous thing, and here is the silver chloride and silver cluster alone. Now this thing is lowest unoccupied molecular orbital, and this one is highest occupied molecular orbital. You can see that this one is empty. Okay, while this one is filled, and there is always some gap there. And these are the levels, and these levels constitute the band gap in a crystal. When there is a band gap between these two is very small, then the transfer of electrons from this to this is possible. Transfer of electrons from this to this is possible, and that sometimes is called as the ionization energy also. They are almost the same. They carry almost the same meanings. That is, the ionization potential or the ionization energy almost are the same, or electron affinity is the amount of energy released when you add an electron to that. Okay, so you can see that this level can be given like this. A quantum chemical calculation will put them, each line is energy line. And in quantum mechanics, you differentiate it by A, B, A1, T1, T2, G symmetries like that. Okay, this is possible for a metal atom, okay, as well as for an organic molecule. In both the cases, if you bring all of them together, you will have some gap, and this gap, it decides the conducting property of that particular metal. If the gap is very small, then you have very good conducting property, and the electron can jump from this place to this place very easily. If the gap is very large, it cannot jump, it will require more heat. Okay, that is the actually a band theory of the conductor. And this diagram has to go for, remember, it has to go for every crystal and it has to go for every metal. The crystal, in a sense, it can be inorganic crystal or it can be an organic crystal. Look at how the crystal is described. This is your molecule there. This is the entire molecule. And this occupies a particular space X, Y, and Z. So you have 1 unit, 2 unit, 3 unit, 4 units here, and you will call it as the lattice units. And this is a unit cell. This gets repeated in a lattice. And so you can see that these atoms can be closer. Here you see, this is the gap. They can be closer or they can be far, depending on the type of the molecule there. And this molecule can be organic in nature as well as inorganic in nature. For organic, you have light emitting diode properties. Earlier it used to be inorganic materials like silicates and other non-stoichiometric compounds. Now you have light emitting diodes in organic chemistry, we call it as the OLED. Almost all our visible screens ranging from the mobile phones to TV are made up of the OLED. So this OLED structure is actually a crystal structure, but for an organic molecule, and it has got some shape, and there are about 41 types of symmetries apart from 7 basic crystal system. Apart from 7 basic crystal system, and this is what they deal with the crystal growth center. Remember, it is a challenging thing to grow a purest form of the substance from impure substance, because in almost all reactions you get only 60 to 70% of the product, and then 40 to 30% is impurity. Removing impurity is possible only through growth of crystal. Okay, so let us have a look into the visualization part. You see, you can see that the circles represent atoms, and you have your arrangement. So this arrangement is corners only. The arrangement is now fitted into a cube, or rather than the cube, you can call it as the cuboid. In the cube, you have A equal to B equal to C, but in a cuboid, A equal to B, which is not equal to C, is there, and this is because of the difference in size of the atoms. The shape of the unit cell is described in terms of the length of the cell, edges ABC, and the angles between the cells, the AB, alpha, beta, and gamma. That is what is called as the ABG there. Okay, this cell, when you introduce it and substitute them by means of some other atoms there. Okay, this is a cell which talks it as a cube. Okay, this is a cell that talks as a cube. So you can directly see a cube there, cube is inside there. Some atoms are substituted here. If the substitution is such that one entire unit has got the radius ratio. Radius ratio, I think I told you about radius ratio. If the radius ratio is small, you can accommodate the atoms according to them. For example, 0.4 something for the cubic system, 0.5 for body centered system. Okay, like that. So if it is very large, then you can accommodate single molecules there. Okay, so this cubic system is a cubic system here can take the shape of a hexagon there. Now this is weaving angle, or rather weaving arrangement. I'm telling you all this. You join them just because this is what the crystal growth center has to do. This is what we have to study: the arrangement, the pattern, the distance between the atoms, and the type of these things. And then only you get the purest form of the substance. Unless you get purest form of the substance, you are never going to get the properties out of that. Okay. So if you have a cube like this, I'm drawing a cube like this. The pattern is possible only if you have 3D arrangement. Okay. Otherwise, you just simply connect them to some small uh, two-dimensional arrays like this. So if you can connect it by means of some layer here, like the shaded portion that is shown there, you can get a particular type. Now you just see this as a hexagon also. You can see the hexagon as well as cube. Cube in a particular arrangement, hexagon in a different arrangements. So the arrangement, this actually can be simulated by means of the visualization. I put this just to show you how a three-dimensional space, a hexagonal paired arrangement can give you a cube also. This is a hexagon arrangement can give a picture of the cube also. So you get a cube there. To draw a line, you get a cube there. Just connecting the atoms here. Okay. So if you just view it from some particular layer, it just is a two-dimensional layer without any special arrangements. But if you look at in a hexagonal pattern, the molecule has been tilted in this direction. So then you get a hexagon like this. You get a hexagon like this. So the arrangement of hexagon and the cube is just the same thing. So here is given there. This is the unit cell here. The unit cell here. And then the chlorine atom is there and the sodium atoms are there. So if you can get here, you can get another molecule here and then you get a cube there. It is hidden there, you get a cube there. You can have a cube. Okay, and there will be one more atom that will be hidden here, maybe around this particular place at the back side. So this is one face you are getting. If this face is visible, remember, if this top face is visible, then this particular hexagon is coming into the picture. And that is the true case for this also. You get a hexagon there. Hexagon there. When you make this layer disappear, it becomes a cube. Cube to hexagon transition depends on arrangement. Cube to hexagon depends on the arrangements. Look at this. This is the case of the water molecules there. Water molecule there. You can have water molecules in a 2D structure like this, and then you get an array, an arrangement that is going in a two-dimensional way in a different direction. This is, if you consider this as x and y, then x and y, then this is xy plane, and this is x and z, xz plane. Both do not give you any idea about the crystalline structure unless you introduce a tied array. So the tied two-dimensional proportion of the crystal structure for the mineral quartz in the SiO2 is having a dimension of 25 angstrom by 20 angstroms. The blue spheres represent silicon and the red spheres represent oxygen. So the same can be true with water also. Same can be true with SiO2 also. But the packing may differ. And here it is taken for the silicates, and you can see the three-dimensional layers there. These three lines that are put here. So the three lines there. Can you see this? You can see this three line. That's three-layered structure is there. The three-layered structure gives rise to different lattice space, and this can be visualized like this. Okay, and this actually is a polyhedron. A polyhedron is a number of hadrons. Particularly here you have tetrahedron. SiO2 will have tetrahedra. Si at the center, O here, another O at the back, another O here. You join them together, you get a polyhedra. Okay, this entire unit is this one. So carefully you can see how the tetrahedras are arranged in cube. This is a cube, particular cube. Just change the view. You get a HCP type structure. Okay, so from this we have come to a conclusion that the atoms can be arranged in a different patterns. There is no particular limit for a system having a definite crystalline pattern. It may change. You may have HCP, you may have CCP, you may have BCC, all types of crystals. And these are the water molecules there, oxygen at the center, hydrogen here and hydrogen here. These are very random. Okay, when they are random at room temperature, you don't have any ordered arrangements. But when you freeze, they take up a definite shape, they take up a definite property. Well, this is what you see when there is a perfect arrangement of the crystals. The random molecules that you see in the previous slide is now becoming, this one is ice, this one is also 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 ice, this one is all water molecules depending on type or method of preparation of crystals. Okay, I think you have understood this. I will start with this. Then we will go to some other part of the slide. Here, I just tried to assess how important a crystal system is and how you get 2D to 3D arrangements, and that two different type of 3D arrangements, and how much important the crystal growth study is for you in future, whether you take organic system or inorganic system.